All right, so today we have a project. This Hummer H3 behind me needs rear brakes. Complete, we're gonna do the whole thing. The pads are really shot and the discs, they're not that bad, but we're gonna upgrade a bit. This is R1 concept, slotted discs. We thought about going with the slotted and drilled discs, but if you've done much 4x4ing, you've probably run into somebody who had drilled disc brakes and cracked them. They busted. It's just these vehicles take a little bit of punishment, a little bit of abuse, and when you're pulling heavier loads, like this thing, when we get it loaded up, when we are overlanding, this thing gets pretty heavy. So didn't want to risk it on anything that was drilled unless we were going to increase the disc brake size, which we're not going to do on the rears. But you can see the slotted ones, going to shed some of that dust. And the reviews on these things are pretty good. We're going to test them out and see if they are as good as people say. Hopefully they are better than the stock ones. So that's today's project on our H3. All right, so first thing, we got the front wheels chalked. Now it's time to get this rear end up in the air.
Whoa, that's so cool.
Okay, we got that guy just a smidge up, but the tires are still locked in. That way we can knock all of these lug nuts loose. And once we do that, then we're gonna get it all the way up in the air, put the jack stands underneath it. Okay, got the jack stands up under there. We're gonna lower this down with the floor jack, lower right down on the jack stands. Make sure that you get jack stands, if you don't have any already, you're gonna purchase some. Get the kind that have that little piece that slides through. I'll show it to you later. It's just like a deadbolt for your jack stands. It really takes away any risk of those things dropping. So now we can just lower this guy down. Okay, I'm gonna get these tires off, get these rims off, so we can expose the brakes and then we can start disassembling those. I'm gonna go ahead and take both sides off, just so we can start working in tandem on both sides. Okay, hey, forgive me, it's a little bit dark right now, but trying to show you some light. Want to show you how the whole caliper system comes off. I loosened everything up for the sake of this video to make it a little bit faster, but you got these bolts right here, and then these bolts back here. Those are the ones you want to take off. So we're going to go ahead and take these out first. All right, so you get those guys out. Then you're taking this guy on out. And then you got these bolts here, but one thing you can do, you might have to pry them off, depends. I already got this loosened up, so I can go and get the brake pads out right now. So there's the outer brake pad off, and the inner brake pad, we got it off. And then we want to take off this whole assembly here, and it's from these two bolts. This is super, super easy. I'm telling you, anybody, you don't have to be super mechanically inclined to do this. You could really do this yourself. I mean, really, just about anyone can. You can save yourself a tremendous amount of money instead of going to a brake shop and having them do your brakes, or going to a mechanic and having them do your brakes. People pay a lot of money for this because it's the fear factor. It's your brakes. Oh, I don't want my brakes to go out. I don't know if I can do this. And honestly, if you don't think you're comfortable doing it, you should not take the risk. But if you like tinkering with things and learning how to do things, DIY stuff, this is definitely something that you can learn how to do yourself. I'm going to bring the camera around the front side, show you how to get these rotors, or to get these disc rotors off, and then we're going to start putting it back together. Okay, if you're replacing the discs, which I'm going to do here, and get a better braking disc than the factory ones, you see these holes right here. This is how you press these things off. You got these two holes here, and you know, each manufacturer, each car is going to have something probably a little bit different, but this is what the H3 takes. It's the M10 1.25 times 50 millimeter. You could get 40 millimeter, that would be fine too, but we're going to start screwing those in here, these two bolts, and it's going to force that disc right off. And it's a pretty cool thing because it's locked in there. You don't want this thing moving around, falling. So it's a pretty cool thing how they made it where you can actually just go ahead and get it off. So as you tighten this, it's forcing it off. I recommend going from one bolt to the other when this one gets really tight. You know, go down to the other one. And you can see it's working its way off of these lugs right here. As we tighten it in, it's coming off. Okay, got these guys done, loosened up, taking it right off. Super, super easy. Now while you have that off, this is a good chance to look in here, inspect anything for anything that's cracked or broken. And we look like we are a-okay, doing just fine. But it's always good to just check whenever you're working on something. Always just check to make sure you don't have a bigger problem than what you're really working on. Okay, we are going to take this brake caliper project. Here's the other guy back there somewhere. You can see him. We're going to take it to the next level. The next level is we're going to clean these guys up with brake cleaner, and then we're going to prime them with some it's like flame-proof primer, but it's something that can handle the heat of being around brakes and for brake calipers. And then we're going to use this brake caliper black paint. Just want to give this guy a little aesthetic cleanup, so when you look through the rims, which you don't see a whole lot through the H3 rims, but you see a nice black caliper in there, something that doesn't look rusty or look dingy, because we got a huge project going on this thing. It is to convert this thing to a full-fledged overlander. So while I'm doing something, if I can do a little aesthetic cleanup and the upgrade while we're doing maintenance, that's our goal, that's our idea. So this is certainly something you don't have to do, but if you want to do a little touch of personalization, customization to your calipers, now's a good time to do it while you got it all taken apart. All right, so we've been spraying this guy a bit. In a minute, I'm going to grab a toothbrush, get it super, super clean. But you can see, getting it really clean. Let's get this guy cleaned up now. There we go. That's going to be a really good surface to put primer on. Get these guys looking a little bit better. Okay, we are back the next evening. Got the brake caliper mounts, and check it out. The brake calipers, hopefully you can see that. I'll give you more close-up later. But those guys have been cleaned, primed, and painted, and I think they look super, super nice. And then we got the new discs that are going to go on. Those are going to look really great as well. The only thing I'm a little bit bummed about, okay, so we put on this CRC disc brake quiet, and it goes on the back sides of your disc pads, your brake pads, and it's just bright red. And unfortunately, when we put it all together, you're going to see that bright red under there. Probably should have looked around for a black product, but nonetheless, this whole setup is going to look pretty sweet, and we are going to have improved braking. Okay, got the disc on. One thing you want to make sure you do, these things are slotted. You want to make sure that they are directional. There's one for the left, one for the right, and as they rotate in this manner, the slots are shooting out that brake dust to the outside. So you always want to have them in the correct direction. Just look at your manufacturer specs and that'll do for you. Then we're going to get this guy on, the mount for the caliper. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we got this torque wrench. We want to get these back ones that hold the caliper mounts on to 100 foot-pounds of torque. Hopefully you can see that. I'm kind of laying down here on the floor, but you can see this. You just dial it in, super easy. Dial into that black number, 100. And this torque wrench, you can see we get it right up there to 100. Lock the bottom. This we're going to put in the description box below. It's available on Amazon. Just click on the link below. You can get a super awesome torque wrench for not a whole lot of money. You can spend a lot more money on torque wrenches, but this one is a really good bang for the buck. So we're going to take this guy, hook him up to the back. If you haven't used a torque wrench before, the whole idea behind it is when you hear this thing pop, like a little click noise, you know you reached 100 psi. So we'll do it together. Right there. That's when we hit it. We hear 100 foot-pounds. So there we go. So let's do the bottom one. I said 100 psi before. It's 100 foot-pounds of torque, and that's the number we're going for on these. And there we go. So when you do your brakes on your car, check your manufacturer specs to know what the torque is that you want to dial your torque wrench into. You certainly want to get it right. You don't want these things coming off. All right, the next thing we're going to do, put the brake pads on. Now, one thing we did, we put that stuff on there to quiet them. I'm not sure if I'm going to love it, but we'll see if it works. So then we're going to put these guys on. Try not to get the stuff on you. And then they just slip right into spot, the same spot that we took them off of before. Oh, and always, sorry, I meant to tell you, always to the inside. The inside over here is where your pad with the little metal tab is. When that tab wears down and it starts chirping onto your disc back here, that's when you know your brakes are worn out, time to replace them. So always put that to the inside, to the back side. All right. Same idea on this one up here for the outside brake pad. These are a little bit snug right now because of the paint that we put on them, but no worries, they go on just the same. Okay, so next thing to put on is the caliper. And we got the caliper hanging back here on the brake line. And we've already compressed this. I compressed it before we painted. Should have showed you how to do it. I'll give you kind of a little demonstration. So when you take these off, there's this cylinder back here, which is going to be out a ways. You take a C-clamp, hook it back between these two here. We used a block of wood and a rag so we didn't mess up the paint. Compress this guy back. It's super easy. They make a tool to do it other than the C-clamp, which works better, but I didn't have it on hand at the time. And then this guy just slips right on over like that. And then you're going to line up these bolts here, and you just compress these guys so you can get around them. And then we're going to line up right there. And then these, for this vehicle, we torque them to 27 psi. I'm sorry, I'm tired. Been doing this for 2 late evenings. We torque these to 27 foot-pounds of torque. So these you certainly don't want to go super tight on because it'll be too much. You know, they have this rubber piece in here, if you can see that moving. We just want enough to hold these together. Once again, check your manufacturer's torque rate and then follow those instructions, because this is something, it is the brakes of your vehicle. You want to do it correctly. All right, then we're going to take this guy, dial him down. Now this one says 30 pounds. We're going to go just below 30 pounds. And there we are. Lock him in place. And that's what we're going to tighten these guys to. Just shy of 30 pounds. Until we hear it click. Right there, we got it. Got it. So the next thing, so we got a wheel and a tire to throw in here, and this brake job is done. Okay, so that's how it's done. That's how you replace the rear brake pads, paint the calipers, and replace the rear discs. So hopefully that's been helpful to you, been an encouragement to you that you can do this yourself. It is really just not that hard. Once again, like I said before, if it's something that you don't really feel comfortable with doing, it is your brakes. I recommend you taking your brakes to see a professional. Whether you drive a Hummer H3 or not, if this has been helpful to you, give us a thumbs up. Share this video with somebody you think could benefit from it as well. Thanks a lot. The descriptions and the links are all in the description box below. The parts that we've used here are going to be described as well. and some of the products that you could buy on Amazon that could help you do your own brakes will be there as well. Just hit the links. Thanks a lot. Until next time.